So I wanted to start this channel up simply because there's not a lot of channels out there that sort of go into the realms and the processes of buying a boat for the first time or looking into boating, because on paper it seems like an incredibly expensive pastime. Now, as a family, we've had tents, we've had inflatable tents, we've had a camper van, we've had a caravan, we've had trailer tents, you name it, we've had it for sort of weekend family use. And I've always fancied a boat, but always thought it's just a dream, it's too expensive, can't really afford to buy a boat. So I started to do a bit more research into it, and where we live on the coast, very close to the beach, obviously water sports is everywhere. We have kayaks, we have paddle boards, and we love spending time at the beach, and our son loves it down there, he'll spend all day on the beach, but I've always wanted to get a boat. So I started looking into the sort of costs and whether or not it was actually feasible and affordable, because we're looking at our next step on what we do of a weekend together. And having done the caravanning and campervanning and tenting stuff, there's nothing else out there that we really fancy, nothing that really ticks every single box. So I started to look into the boats, and as my wife will tell you, I get quite obsessed with stuff and I do a lot of research and check things out. So we've now bought a boat. We've got a mooring and we've got storage, and it is not as expensive as you think it might be. So I'm doing this video simply to sort of show you how much it costs to get a boat in the water, and a relatively decent boat as well. I'm not talking about a dinghy. So I had a specific want list for a boat. I wanted a boat that's called a cuddy. So it's basically a speedboat but with lots of seating and an indoor area, so somewhere where you could go and sit inside if you wanted to. You could even sleep in it at a stretch, but it just gave a lot more usable space within it rather than a speedboat that just has 2 or 4 seats in it. So this is what I found. Now this is a Fletcher Faro cuddy boat, and I found this on eBay. It pretty much ticks every box. It's got 75 horsepower Mercury outboard with trim adjust as well. It has a cuddy cabin and it has a seating layout that I haven't seen on any other boat. So it really ticked a lot of boxes. It was only about an hour and a half's drive away as well. So after a bit of chatting with the guy, we ended up buying it. I didn't rush into it. This was the first boat that I saw, or that we saw, and we loved it. But I didn't buy it straight away. I looked into the mooring, I looked into insurance, I looked into storage, I looked into everything that we would need to be able to run a boat on a yearly basis, and also those costs, and I think you'd be quite surprised. Now this boat is 30 years old. And it's one of those things where I wouldn't buy a 30-year-old car, not unless it was a classic Audi type Jag maybe. But boats 25-30 years old is quite normal, apart from the engine. As long as the engine is looked after, there's not a lot that can really go wrong with them. Fiberglass hull. When I did my research on the Fletchers, every single bit of feedback that everyone had was it's got a great V hull, handles really well, very well made, very robust. Apart from cosmetics on the outside, I'm going to get these stickers replaced because they make it look old. You can see it's faded around here, but you can buy them. So I'll get them replaced, and I think that'll make a massive difference to the outside of the boat. It's been anti-fouled. It's perfectly clean underneath. Came with a trailer, winch, lots of other little extras on it as well. There's a little roof window inside, and you can walk around the outside as well. Get to the front and you can sit on the front. But it's not in bad condition, 30 odd years old. Just minor cosmetics, little marks on it. Inside you've got this lovely U-shaped benching, so you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 people in here, plus the 2 seats up front, and then there's the cabin area as well, which I'll show you. That mat is just for stepping on when I get in and out, keep the seats as clean as possible. They're a little bit dirty, but again, only minor. Engine's been looked after really well. The guy who's owned this has owned it for 15 years, and he's looked after it, and it is how it should be for a 30-year-old boat. So before I go any further on this video, comment below now, tell me how much you think this boat costs. So on the back here, this is the sensor for the depth gauge fish finder. There is an attachment here for a separate outboard motor, so you can have an emergency one on the side just in case one packs up. You've got steps that drop down to climb in from the rear, should you need. I'll take you inside and show you around. Right, so just put this on ultra wide view so you can get everything in. So yeah, seating configuration is really nice. All the way around, you can sit several people in here. There's also storage underneath. You've got 2 anchors in there and ropes. This side has the fuel tanks, so there's 2 25-litre fuel tanks. And then this side, more storage and the battery, oil, rope. Need to get some more ropes. But again, he left me loads of bits and pieces that he's had over the years, even a fishing rod. So up front you've got 2 seats that fold down if you need more space for some reason. Didn't know this, just found it underneath the seats. So underneath this one, there's actually a little sink. So you've got a little hand pump, which you can connect underneath here. Some water too, so if you want to wash your hands while you're out and about, we'll have access to water. Underneath here it's just a storage tray, more storage underneath the seats. I'm very excited to get this out on the sea. The moment it's in storage and someone is coming to meet me out here to get this down to the beach, launch it for me, and I've got mooring down near where I live at Exmouth, so it's going to be moored up, deep mooring, so it'll always be accessible, and there's a taxi that takes you to and from all the boats, so you can go on there anytime you want. I won't bore you with everything that's on here. Lots of dials, battery, speed, revs, horn, lights, material light, fish finder, VHF. I will bore you, sorry. Compass, and there's your fish finder and depth meter, depth gauge, whatever it's called. Cup holder. Cup holder and storage down there, and then there's your controls for the outboard, which it's got a choke on it. I haven't used a choke in many years. But over here you've got access to the cuddy area, so basically this lifts up, you can lock it as well, locks with a key. And we undo this, open up, and then in here you've basically got a 2-berth bed, 3 actually. You can get 3 people in here, 2 people and a child. I'm 6'4" and I've laid down in here and I just fit. Now there's the option to take the centre piece out. There's a panel of wood that goes across it, so it gives it support if you were laying on it, and that way you can just sit inside here should you wish. And there's a little skylight down there as well, so you get light coming in. As you can see, it's not exactly spacious, it's not a palatial boat, but for a beginner boat it's perfect. It's not very big, so it should be easily controllable, easy to manoeuvre, easy to park, and fun. That's what it's all about, just enjoying the water, and I'm really looking forward to taking it out. I'm going to buy a little table. You can get one to just screw onto the floor and take them off, so it has a removable leg and top, so that way if we're moored up somewhere or put the anchor down near a beach, we can have a little table there, sit there and have a picnic and just look out across the beach. So running costs on a boat like this, looking into it, essentially you're probably only going to use this during the summer months, so we looked at a summer mooring only and winter months storage. I am paying for 12 months of storage because the trailer is going to stay here, so it's too big for me to keep at home, so that's going to stay in storage year round, and the boat will be here for 6 months and on the sea for 6 months. 12 months storage for me, for this boat here, it's just under 7 metres, so it hits in their lower category, is 635 quid. Summer mooring, you can get different costs. Because I've sort of had to take what there is, I can prepare for next year and decide what I want to do. You can buy a mooring for around £700 and it's yours. The only downside to that is the upkeep of the actual anchor, chain and bits and pieces itself, so you do have to get it serviced and checked out. Or you could just rent it and then they deal with it. I've rented it, it's £100 a month. So 600 quid a year on top of the £635, so 1200 quid to keep the boat stored and moored. You then got to look at insurance. Not everyone gets insurance. You buy a £500 boat and go, if it sinks, it sinks. I lose 500 quid rather than paying whatever amount per annum for insurance. However, looking into it, if you are moored up at a marina somewhere and your boat sinks there, they will charge you for the recovery and removal of that boat which would be more than what the boat costs, and that'd be a lot more than what the insurance would be as well. So for the sake of what it costs for insurance, and to give you an idea, this boat, I could get it insured for £120 a year. Now, they do take into consideration the fact that I've done a level 2 powerboat course, so that is one of the markers that they put on there. However, you don't need that. It may go up a little bit. I'm actually paying £220 a year because I've gone for a lot higher cover level, fully comp with a few other bits and pieces included. So yeah, insurance is not a huge amount, but let's say 220 quid, that's worst case scenario that I'm paying. Now, the only thing that I haven't taken into consideration, and can't really, is going to be the cost of fuel. I've worked out roughly, depending upon the RPM, how much fuel it's going to use, and looking at other people's videos on YouTube and how much it costs them to run a boat, they might spend 60 quid every 2 to 3 months depending upon the usage. So you may only get so many hours out of it, but you're not going to be spending hours and hours and hours and hours constantly driving the boat at full throttle. You're going to be driving somewhere, mooring up, enjoying a beach, going for a swim, having a day out, and then driving back again. So economy, I don't think fuel is going to be an issue, but time will tell. You've then got maintenance. The only thing really to maintain on here is, obviously, when I take this out of the water at winter, I will just check underneath it, wash it all off. I might need to anti-foul it. So that just means sanding it down, painting the bottom of it with anti-foul paint. Can do that myself, not an issue. The outboard is a relatively simple 2-stroke engine. I used to work on engines when I was younger. So this boat is 30 years old. So service history, the last guy did most of it himself, has got a million receipts on it. Worst case scenario, I could service this or get it serviced, and it might cost me 400 quid every 2 years. So a couple of £100 a year, not a huge amount. But if you look after it, do the right things, prepare it in winter and storage, then you shouldn't have a lot to do on it realistically. If you've never driven a boat before, I would recommend going on the level 2 powerboat course. Anyone can drive a boat legally as well. You don't need a license. But when it comes to insurance and mooring and also renting boats, so if I was abroad now, I can hire a boat because I've got a level 2 powerboat qualification. So it's worth it. It was 330 quid to do that. Never have to do it again. But it also gives you a lot of insight into tides and mooring, and teaches you how to park properly and how to really use the boat, and could end up saving you 500 quid in damages at the end of the day. So I think £330 for a 2-day course, it's also good fun, is well worth doing. So if you haven't done it and you're looking at getting into boating, go and do it first. Now, the outboard motor on this is only a 75 horsepower, and I was looking at the fact that it only does about 30 knots. So I don't know what that is, 30 odd mile an hour, I'll put it on the screen here. But when I was doing my level 2 powerboat course, we were in a rib which had 115 horsepower outboard, and I took it up to about 28 knots. That is more than enough. If I went any faster than that, my family would have a heart attack. So 30 knots is more than enough. This is not a high powered speedboat, but it's more than powerful enough to be able to tow things like a donut, rubber ring, whatever you want to tow, even a water skier. So 30 knots is more than enough. So don't be put off by something that only does 30 knots. It's plenty. When you're out there doing 28, 29, that feels like pushing it to me, but I am a complete novice at this, so other people may comment and say 30 knots is nothing, and maybe you're right, but I also want to be safe. Going back to the powerboat course, you do gain a lot of knowledge, as I said before, but also about things like the buoys and how to read the buoys going in and out of channels, and learning the etiquette of boating and doing things properly, and the right speeds to do, speed limits and speed limit signs, things that you may not see if you weren't knowledgeable on that subject. So as I said, it's worthwhile doing it for a few hundred quid. Get it done. Different prices, different places, but do look at doing that if you are looking at getting into boating. Up here there is a VHF radio shipped to shore, so I'm also going to be doing a VHF course just so I know exactly what to do in the event of emergency. I think it's fairly obvious, but the main thing is knowing which channel the main marina is on Exmouth, which I think is 14, but I'll check it out. So that's it, my Fletcher Faro 18-foot cuddy boat. How much do you think it cost? Did you comment? See how close you were. So this boat with the trailer, all in, cost me £4,995. I say me, us, we as a family. Now, not everyone's got £5 to burn or to spend, but it's not a lot when you look at other activities that are out there. So if you're into camping, a tent, decent tent costs you the best part of £1,000. Camper van, £30,000–40,000. Caravan, you might get one for £5 grand, it won't be very nice, but you'll be looking at £10,000–15,000 for a decent caravan. More, something like this, probably around 30 grand. So these sorts of hobbies are not cheap, but they're not out of the realm of affordability. £5,000 for this. If we do it for a year and don't like it and sell it, I'll probably sell it for £5 grand again in a year's time. So all I'm going to lose really is the mooring fees and what it's cost me to run it, and that's it. But it's about making memories for your family and having fun and enjoying it, and you can't really put a price on that. Next video you'll see will be me and a friend of mine taking it down to the mooring it up, parking it up, and that'll be it. And hopefully it's successful and doesn't sink. I've got someone helping me because they do it all the time. I don't know what I'm doing, and I find the best way to learn is to actually do it with someone else helping you and showing it, rather than trying it yourself, getting it wrong, costing a lot of money. So if you like boat videos, if you're new into boating, or if you want to get into boating, then try and be one of my first subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like bell, comment below, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.